Welcome to Slow American English, the podcast for learners of American English. I'm your host, Karen Tolliver. This is episode number 52, San Francisco, California. Hello, Slow American English listeners. Before we begin, here's some important info. Now you can follow me on social media. Click the icons for Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook on the podcast website at www.slowamericanenglish.net. I send information about American English idioms on Mondays and podcast episode information every Friday. Plus, there are additional posts with more information. Don't forget to buy the 4th Slow American English Workbook. It's available on Amazon, just like the first 3 workbooks. You can use the workbooks either with the podcast or without it. Teachers can use it for listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Students can use it for self-study. For links to buy all my workbooks, visit the podcast website. A million thanks to my Patreon patrons for pledging a small amount every month to keep the podcast going. Your contributions help pay for web hosting and other expenses. Without you, I could not produce this podcast every month. Thank you. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/slowamericanenglish. Become a website subscriber at www.slowamericanenglish.net. There are free transcripts plus links to become a patron and to buy workbooks. Now for the podcast. San Francisco, California is one of the most important ports in the USA. It is on the West Coast, on the Pacific Ocean, and has a large, safe bay and harbor for ships. The city and bay are famous for the quickly changing weather, especially fog and rain. In fact, the fog hid the harbor from European explorers for over 300 years. Before that, the Yaluma people lived there. Beginning with the European settlers, San Francisco was a Spanish mission, and later a Mexican mission. Then, in 1848, gold was discovered in the nearby mountains. Many people poured into the area in 1849, hoping to get rich. This movement of people was called the Gold Rush, and the people were called the 49ers. This nickname is so popular that San Francisco's football team's name is the 49ers. San Francisco sits on very steep hills, and part of it is on filled-in marshland. The city lies on the San Andreas Fault, which means there is a high danger of earthquakes. In fact, the Great Earthquake of 1906 destroyed much of the city. Fires burned for 3 days afterward, destroying even more. More recently, a large earthquake occurred in 1989. Highways, buildings, and bridges fell, and many people died. However, San Franciscans rebuilt each time, and it continued to grow. It is a very rich, crowded city with many high-tech companies and a progressive culture. Writers and poets came to the city, including the beat poets of the 1950s. In the 1960s, the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood was famous as a center for the hippie counterculture. San Francisco has always been a place where many activists, including those for environmental, labor, and feminist issues, live and work. In the 1980s, the Castro District area was a center for gay rights and a movement to help homeless people and those with AIDS. Other interesting facts about San Francisco. Thousands of Chinese immigrants came to San Francisco to work because of the discovery of gold and silver, and also because of the railroad. As a result, the Chinatown area of San Francisco became the largest Chinese settlement outside of Asia. Visitors to San Francisco should ride the famous cable cars. They were installed in the late 1800s and helped the city grow on the steep hills. Another popular site is Fisherman's Wharf, a historical part of the waterfront. While there, tourists like to see the hundreds of sea lions that visit Pier 39 every year. From this area, you can take a boat tour and visit the famous ex-prison Alcatraz, which is located on an island in San Francisco Bay. But I have saved the most famous site of San Francisco for the last, the Golden Gate Bridge. That and the Bay Bridge were both built in the 1930s. They connect the city to nearby communities like Oakland and Marin County. That's the podcast for this time. Slow American English is written and produced by Karen Tolliver. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved. For a free transcript and to subscribe to the podcast, visit www.slowamericanenglish.net. You can get the podcast episodes via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, and any other RSS feed reader. Theme music is written and performed by S.W. Campbell and used by permission. Find more music by this artist at www.soundclick.com/SWCAMPBELL. As always, you can contact me directly via email at info@slowamericanenglish.net. This has been Slow American English. I'm Karen Tolliver. Thank you for listening.